Hello to everyone! Ireland and Brexit. At the end of this presentation, I would like to answer to this question, how Brexit could create a crisis at the Irish border, because it is a contemporary problem and international problem, so it's very important to answer to this question. So let's begin. Ireland. This is Ireland, and this is the flag of this country, this beautiful country. It's near the United Kingdom. The capital of Ireland is Dublin. Ireland is divided up into 4 provinces, which are Ulster, Connacht, Leinster, and Munster. Northern Ireland is considered as a part of Ulster, and it is divided up into 6 counties. The capital of Northern Ireland is Belfast, and the capital of the Republic of Ireland, so the rest of Ireland, that was at the beginning the Irish Free State, is Dublin. By population, the largest counties in the Republic of Ireland are, for example, Dublin, obviously, Galway, and Cork. In the Republic of Ireland, we have 26 counties. This is the Irish Sea, this is the Atlantic Ocean, and the Celtic Sea. So, before understanding the international problem of the Brexit and Ireland, I would like to take a look on the history of this beautiful country, because I think that these notions are very important to understand better what are the reasons of the contemporary conflicts and division in this country based on religion problems and the differences between different type of population, one from Celts and one from Germanics, for example, because Irish people and Scottish people came from Celts and British people from Germanics. So, historians estimated that around 4000 before Christ, the first farmers arrived in Ireland, and farming marked the arrival of the Stone Age. Around 300 before Christ, there was the arrival of Iron Age warriors from the mainland Europe, and they were known as the Celts. They arrived in Ireland, and their influence on this country was very important because, for example, most of the famous myths of Ireland are based on the actions of these epical warriors, and the current language, Irish or Gaelic, stems from Celtic language. In 600 AD, Christian missionaries arrived in Ireland, and the Christianity took over the indigenous pagan religion. And many students studied, for example, in the monasteries, the Latin, the Greek, the Christian theology, and they also learned the art of manuscript illumination, the sculpture, and we can see this thing now across the country. During the 18th and 19th century, there was also the arrival on this beautiful island of Vikings from Scandinavia. They gradually invaded Ireland and mixed with the local people, and in 988 they founded Dublin, the capital of Ireland. During the 12th century, the Normans arrived in this beautiful country, and they founded walled towns, castles, churches, and they also increased the commerce and agriculture. After King Henry VIII declared himself the head of the church in England in 1534, in 1541 he decided to declare himself King of Ireland through the Irish Parliament, and from this time up to late 17th century, there was the policy of plantation, especially in the region of Ulster, which consisted the arrival of thousands of English and Scottish Protestant settlers in Ireland, and it culminated in the position of the harsh regime of penal laws against the Catholics because they want to disempower the Catholics. And by 1778, Catholics were only about 5% in the land of Ireland. So the conflict begins. In 1782, a parliamentary faction led by Grattan, who was a Protestant, acted for more favorable trading relationship with England and for greater legislative independence of this country, because London still controlled much of Ireland. And in 1791, inspired by the French Revolution, was created an organization called United Irishman, led by Theobald Wolfton, who was this man, as we can see in the slide. And he wanted to bring together all the Irish people from all the religions and to reduce the power of England. And then there was the Act of Union, another party led by Daniel O'Connell, that was able to bring to the Parliament in London the Catholics as the members of this parliament, and he tried to re-establish the Irish Parliament, but he wasn't supported by people at all. Then there was the terrible period of the Great Famine. The Great Famine between 1845 and 1851 began when a blight, a form of plant disease, struck potato crops and potatoes became inedible. So 2 million people died, and they were also forced to emigrate to other countries, like for example the USA. Then in 1882 was founded the Party of Home Rule, Irish Home Rule Party for the self-government, led by Parnell, who was recognized as the uncrowned king of Ireland. And now there was a problem. There is a problem. In Ireland, the majority was Catholic, and in the Northern Ireland, people were Protestant, but not at all. And they wanted a union with Britain, so there was the Unionist Party led by Carson. And so there was the first conflict, known as the Easter Rising, began on the 24th of April in 1916 and finished on the 30th of April. And there were two groups of rebels: Irish volunteers led by Patrick Pearse and Irish Citizen Army led by James Connolly. And it was set at the GPO, General Post Office in Dublin. And Pearse read a proclamation of the Republic, which declared an Irish Republic independent of Britain. And then we will see that a new Irish Parliament was created through the Sean Fee Parliament of de Valera, because then there was also a war of independence for treaty and anti-treaty, and the two most important figures in this period were, for example, Michael Collins, pro-treaty, and Eamon de Valera, anti-treaty. And the Irish Parliament was created through the Party of de Valera, the Sean Fee Party. And until 1922, Ireland remained under the control of Great Britain, but then, approx around 1921, there was a treaty that established that the Northern Ireland, with 6 counties, remained under the control of Great Britain, because in this territory there were many Protestants. and the rest of Ireland, known as the Irish Free State, become independent with 26 counties, and in 1937 it became the Republic of Ireland, with the capital which is Dublin. And the capital of Northern Ireland, that is considered as a great part of the region of Ulster, is Belfast. In 1073, there was also the fact that Ireland became a part of the European Economic Community that then became the European Union. In 1960s, there was the period of troubles, a conflicts between Republican and nationalist groups and the loyalist unionist groups that was clashed. They were clashed, and in Ulster, the number of Catholics increased, so there was a conflict between Protestant and Catholics in the region of Ulster, and during the March of the Catholics in Derry, British people killed 13 people, and in this terrible period culminated in this Bloody Sunday. Fortunately, in 1998, there was a peace that lasted 23 years. And on 10th of April, there was the Belfast Agreement, known as the Good Friday. So, Ireland and the Brexit. We knew that Brexit is Brexit. The word Brexit is the union of two words, Britain and exit, and it means the United Kingdom's departure. It means the United Kingdom's departure from the European Union. In 2019, there was a referendum, and at the beginning also in 2016, and 51.89% of voters voted to leave the European Union. So, this is a Brexit timeline. As we can see from this scheme, we notice that on 23rd June of 2016, UK votes to leave European Union, and then on 29th March of 2017, the Prime Minister Theresa May triggers the Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty of 2009. This article establishes that if a country which is a member of the European Union wants to leave the European Union, it could do these things. And on 29th of April 2017, the 27 members of the European Union meet to discuss about Brexit, the United Kingdom's departure from the European Union. And there were also the Brexit negotiations that began between the UK and the European Union. And the most important, the key figure in this process, in this procedure, was the European Council, as we can see from this scheme that I wrote. We can see that on 23rd June 2016 there was a referendum, and in this referendum the United Kingdom expressed itself in the favor of Brexit. The 2 years start to negotiate the exit from the European Union with the remaining 27 member countries. Then, by March 2017, Britain invoked Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, which defines the procedure for leaving the Union voluntarily. The agreement submitted to the European Council, this is the key figure of this procedure, requires the approval of at least 20 countries representing 65% of the population and ratification by the European Parliament. At the end of the 2 years, if the negotiation period is not extended, the European Union Treaty ceases to apply to the United Kingdom. So, What was the result of this Brexit referendum? 51.9% of voters want to leave the European Union, and 48.1% wanted to remain. And this map of limits show us, for example, the voters in the different countries. We have in Scotland 62% of people that wants to remain, and in Northern Ireland 55.78% of people that wants to remain in European Union, and also in London, because London is a cosmopolitan city, and there are, for example, many Italians. There was also Gibraltar that wanted to stay in the European Union. But why? The question is why? Before answering to this question, I think that it's very interesting to take a look on the key points of Brexit. So, there are two documents for Brexit. The first one is the withdrawal agreement of Theresa May of 2018, and the second one is the political declaration with the special provisions for Northern Ireland, the only land border between the United Kingdom and the European Union, so the Protocol of Ireland and Northern Ireland. And the key points of Brexit are these. Tourism, that established that starting from January 1st of 2021, you will have to travel with a passport and visa, because anyone who has so far entered the United Kingdom with an identity card will be able to continue to do so, but have to travel with a passport and a visa. It's very important. Then we have the citizens' rights. British citizens living in the European Union and European citizens living in the United Kingdom are protected in a certain sense, because their rights are protected. Then we have financial agreement. British people have to pay for this divorce 36 billion euros. And then we have also a transition period, because after the date of Brexit, a transition period will begin and will end at the end of 2020. And in this period, the current arrangements and changed, and Brussels and London discuss about their future partnership. The governance. First one, the European Court of Justice will intervene if the integrity of European standards is compromised. And London and Brussels have therefore decided to create a joint committee with the possibility of resorting to arbitration in the most controversial cases. Then the most important key point of the Brexit is the Irish question. Protocol of Ireland and the Northern Ireland. Irish question. The problem is that Northern Ireland after Brexit belongs to the United Kingdom, and the Republic of Ireland after Brexit remains a member of the European Union. So, the aim of this key point of Brexit is to ensure the dual objective of preserving peace on the Irish island and the integrity between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, and keeping the border between Northern Ireland and Ireland open and protecting the integrity of the single European market. And the agreement provides also, as we can see in this slide, the Northern Ireland will remain part of the customs territory of the United Kingdom, at the same time respecting most of the obligations relating to the European Union Customs Union, and also provides that the Northern Irish Legislative Assembly will be able to confirm periodically whether or not its adherence to this regime. So, the problem with Northern Ireland, what is the problem with Northern Ireland? The problem is that the border between Northern Ireland and the rest of the Ireland, so the Republic of Ireland, remains soft border, because, for example, Northern Ireland remains in the European Common Market, but the border between Northern Ireland and Great Britain become a hard border, because every goods arriving in Northern Ireland from Scotland, England, and Gales, for example, have to pay shipping duties especially. Northern Ireland remains under the control of Great Britain, but the border between Northern Ireland and Great Britain becomes a hard border because Great Britain have to pay the shipping duties on every goods arriving in Northern Ireland. So this is a very important problem. Why Northern Ireland is so important from Great Britain? For strategic reasons, because they want to control the Irish Sea and they want to prevent foreign powers from using the island as a base for a possible attack on Great Britain. So, we think that Northern Ireland is not so important. We usually underestimate these territory, but it's important from a democratic point of view, because, for example, about 5 million people of Ireland, 2 million people stay in Northern Ireland. So it's a very important territory, especially for Great Britain from a strategic point of view. So Great Britain and especially the British conservatism think that through Brexit they could contain the internal separatism and divisions and fight these internal divisions because they are afraid that through their relations with the European Union, these relations with the European Union would not favor the internal cohesion. So they wanted the Brexit for this reason, to contain the internal divisions. But as we can see from this map, from this scheme, Brexit has increased internal divisions in Great Britain, has increased the desire of Scotland, for example, and Northern Ireland to obtain their independence. The Northern Ireland fight for the unionism. They want to be together with the rest of the Ireland, and Scotland wants its independence, and we can see it with the referendum of 2014 when the Scottish people voted for the independence of Scotland, and it failed, but British people were afraid about this referendum because it means leaning on the western flank to possible enemies. So the reasons are always strategic reasons. So we have to take a look from a geopolitical point of view. Another interesting thing is that in Great Britain there is a part of Ireland, Liverpool, as we can see from this manifesto, Irish blood, scuse, heart, we are Liverpool. So the Irish workers went in the past to Liverpool to work, and they remained here in this territory. There are also divisions in terms of religion, because in Scotland many people are Presbyterians, so they aren't Protestant, and Wales is not a problem because Wales even doesn't have a national church. And another problem is Northern Ireland, where the number of Catholics has increased enormously, because at the beginning there was a large number of Protestant for the policy of plantation, but then the number of Catholics has increased enormously in the last year, so they want the union with the rest of the Ireland, which is Catholic. So this is a very important problem for Great Britain. So British people knew that it's impossible to restore the splendor of the British Empire, but they try to slow down its defeat, and they try to persuade, for example, Scotland and Northern Ireland that they stay better into the United Kingdom, that now after Brexit became a divided kingdom rather than a United Kingdom, rather than being small homelands in the European Union. And it's a very important detail. So they have spent 19 billions of pounds in the military instruments and the military materials, because they want to sell themselves as useful to the Americans in military terms. And they exploited the 800 bases all over the world at the beginning of 20th century. In 1915, the British Empire recovered, for example, 20% of all the land and a quarter of the global population. So British people want to sell Great Britain as a global power against the China, and useful to the American, but it's not so powerful, this country. So this is a problem. What about the role of USA and Joe Biden? Joe Biden, as he is the president of the USA, and he has Irish origins. So USA has always supported Ireland, not for strategic reasons, but for sentimental reasons, because they were former colony too, and they have now a paternalistic relationship with England, and they don't accept that a part of Ireland is not in Ireland. So they want the Irish unionism, and they supported them. The only positive thing of the Brexit is that by moving away from the European Union, the other European nations don't intervene about the internal affairs of the United Kingdom. About the role of USA, we can say that on 10th of April 1998, there was the Good Friday, the Belfast Agreement, and in this Belfast Agreement of peace, there was also a secret clause that established that if in Ulster we will obtain the majority of Catholics, of number of Catholics, they will be able to hold a referendum for their secession. So Brexit has increased the internal divisions in Great Britain and not the unionism. And we can understand this not only from the support of the American to the Northern Ireland, for example, but also from the recent protest of April of this year, Northern Ireland, especially in Belfast, and the casus belli was the funeral of Bobby Story, a former member of the independence military organization IRA, Irish Republican Army, and a member of Sinn Féin, the Valera, a governing party that cohabits with the Democratic Party Unionist, but it depends on the division between independentist Catholics and the loyalist Protestant that are loyal to the English crown. And there were also economic and administrative problems generated by Brexit. So in this protest, there were many injuries, for example, between policemen, and also young people. This is very problem. So, how we can answer to the question at the beginning? This question, how Brexit could create a crisis at the Irish border, because it's separated. The Northern Ireland, which remains under the control of the United Kingdom, from the rest of Ireland, and it isn't accepted by all the people and also by Americans. So it is a problem because Brexit has increased internal division, internal separatism, and the internal desire of Scotland and Northern Ireland to obtain their independence and the unionism. So Brexit is not so good, and Brexit has not increased the internal cohesion as the British conservatism taught at the beginning. So Brexit is a problem. There is a fiscal division between Northern Ireland and the United Kingdom. Bye to everyone, and good morning to everyone.